Hello, welcome, Josephine. Thank you so much for coming to talk with me today about college acceptance letters. It's a pretty hot topic and very relevant to this specific month of the year. So if you would go ahead and introduce yourself and maybe give us a little peek into what we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, absolutely, Lily. I'm Josephine. I'm the founder of Strive to Learn, and I'm a college counselor and educational consultant, which means that I work with high school students who are currently, since it's April 1st today, in the midst of having to make a lot of big decisions. Some of you may have had really tough rejection phase or have gotten waitlisted at a lot of places, especially this year with COVID. The waitlists are, heavily in use for enrollment management. Others may have gotten in to all of your colleges and now you are overwhelmed and trying to figure out which one you actually want to go to. And there are a lot of scenarios in between. So today we're here to talk about how you can use the month of April to really figure out which of your acceptances do you actually want to commit to. How do you, select your college now that you have actually been admitted to some of them? And how can you best use this month of April, since you do have 30 days ahead of you before you need to make your final decision?
Absolutely. So, I mean, everyone's college pathway is going to be different because of who they are, how they applied, where they want to go. But there are some questions that I feel apply to pretty much everyone. So my first question would be, what's the first thing someone should do after getting accepted to a college?
Um, I think that it's important to, there are a couple things. So it's important to keep all your information straight. So I would highly recommend, making a Google Doc or something like that, where you keep all of your information for each college. So once you get accepted, you are probably going to get that either in the mail or in an email. And it's also going to be in your applicant portal. So you want to make sure you have all of your portals, written down somewhere, how to log into them, what the link is, what your username is, and make sure you either remember your passwords or have them written down in a safe place. It can be very obnoxious, to have to reset it every time trying to get in. I think that's very important. I would also keep all of your information separate. So if you get an acceptance letter as a PDF and a financial aid award letter as a PDF, don't just let them sit in your portal. Download them, organize them on your computer, maybe print them and have a separate file for each college. I think that's really, really important. Of the colleges that you're excited to have gotten in, so the colleges where you really are thinking about attending, I think one of the first things to do is really keep an eye out for their emails, keep an eye on any of their admitted student events, reach out to the admissions officer assigned to you, introduce yourself, ask for a personal meeting that can be on Zoom. And really start that conversation so that you can use this time, this month that you have, to get to know that college even better, and to really start getting a sense if you can see yourself there. Also feeling out how helpful are they, right, from the start, because that may mirror what it will be like to go there. And another thing, once you do have all your acceptances together, see if you can somehow go visit your top 3 choices. I think that one's really important as well.
Absolutely. So in the college applications process, there are a few different ways of kind of categorizing the type of schools that students are looking at. There's like reach schools, target schools, safety schools. And so I'm curious to know what someone would do if they got into, for instance, uh, all of their target schools and one of their reach schools.
Okay. So I think the most important part is to not focus on where they target or where they reach. It's really to take a look at, what do I like about these colleges? Why did they end up on my list in the first place? What make those colleges a good fit for me? And reestablishing what is your good fit criteria. That's a really good idea. So maybe going back and using a tool like Coursava, which is really cool online tool. You can just Google Coursava, Coursava, and any student can use that tool for free, and you can basically go through these card decks and shuffle and sort what is important to you in a college. I like that tool because it might make you think of things that you wouldn't have thought of if you're just staring at an empty piece of paper. And the criteria that you hopefully wrote down at some point before you applied, those might have changed. I mean, you know, you probably started thinking about all of this about a year ago, and you applied, you know, 8 months ago. So I think it's really important to check in with yourself and think about, what do I want? You know, what do I want next year? And what do I want for the next 4 years? You know, are you looking at a specific major? Take a look at every single one of your colleges and what they offer within that major. Get in touch with that department and tell them, hey, I got in and I'm trying to decide what college to go to because I have some great options and I'm really intrigued by yours. Can I meet with someone on Zoom to find out more about the major? Can I maybe talk to some current students and see what their experience has been? Because you want to go beyond just their website. You want to learn all about these unique experiences that are going to be a big part of your life in the next 4 years. Another big thing is, you know, where do you want to live? I mean, it's not just the university you'll be attending. It's also a place you'll be living. You know, do you want to be in Chicago or do you want to be in Miami? If you're deciding between those two, the climate is very different. The cities are very different. Hopefully you can afford to go visit them. And if not, really, again, try to get somehow together with other current students on Zoom, try to get a sense for the place, get a sense for the campus culture as well. Take out the selectivity aspect of your universities. Really think about the experience that you want to have in your next 4 years and where you want your experiences to take you. Think about what are those goals and then see which school best unites with those. Sometimes it's hard to figure that out. I mean, I recommend making giant spreadsheets because I'm a list person. I love them. Does that always answer, you know, all your questions? No. But it is a great visual way to lay it out. And so that's one of the things that I would do. But again, once you have your criteria kind of sorted out and you know, hey, these 10 things are something I would really like in a college. Then when you are going to your admitted student events and when you have all of these, you know, wonderful opportunities to talk to people there, like the admissions person themselves, as well as other students, start looking through your list and start feeling out, does it sound like I would be getting all of these criteria, or was I just thinking that? So exploring that and checking in with yourself and reflecting, I think, is really important. I do have one more thing to say about all this. I think it's very easy when you get into all safeties or all targets and only one reach to say, I got to go to my reach now. You know, I have to because I got in, but just know that you don't have to. You should go to the university that is the best fit for you and the university that will allow you to build the resume that will allow you to be successful in your future. A brand name university might be able to give you, you know, might be able to get you a foot in the door, might be able to get you an interview, but does it help you seal the deal and get the job? No, that's what's actually on your resume. That's the practical experiences you have gained. That's the research you've conducted. That's the works you have published. So go to the university that where really gives you access to the opportunities that you need access to.
Great. So I have a quick follow-up question. I'm interested in hearing kind of the pros and cons of going to a university where you might be in the relative bottom quarter of the student body. If you go to your reach school, you could be in a lower academic tier, whereas if you go to, for instance, a community college or somewhere else that is one of your safety schools, you might be in the higher academic kind of performance group of that school.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, I've had students, I mean, we're locally located, we're in California, and historically we've had, you know, more students from California. So one of the examples was, I had a student a few years ago who got into UC Berkeley, as well as UC Santa Barbara. That was at a time where Berkeley was as selective as it is currently, and UC Santa Barbara was less selective than it is currently. And so she really loved Santa Barbara and thought it was a good fit for her, both from the major as well as the campus culture, the sense of balance, the location, everything. But then she got into Berkeley. So she's like, I gotta go to Berkeley. Like, how do I say no to Berkeley, right?
Yeah.
Do I want to say no to that? Or do I just, go and not have a life for the next 4 years, because I don't think I'll have the balance I want, because I'll have to really throw myself into my studies. So she was really struggling with that decision, because she felt like she was throwing an opportunity out the window to take an opportunity that is less prestigious. In the end, after a lot of going back and forth and a lot of conversations, she did decide to go to UC Santa Barbara, which I really think was a great choice for her. So one of the things I love doing with my students is I love introducing them to the idea of course, I'm blanking right now. Malcolm Gladwell wrote a wonderful book called David and Goliath. And he talked about the idea of relative deprivation theory as it applies to going to university, and how successful versus how happy will you be at a university during your 4 years, based on how do you compare to the rest of the students academically, right? When you applied, were you in the lower 25%, the mid 50%, or in the top 25% of the student academic profile? And it's really quite interesting. So I really recommend that you Google Malcolm Gladwell relative deprivation theory Google Talk. It's just a 15-minute view. It's really funny. So even if you get nothing else out of it, he's a pretty cool guy. But it really talks about the fact that when you are surrounded by people who are just as smart as you, maybe a little smarter, maybe they just work a little harder, whatever it might be, maybe they have a different sense for what balance means to them, right? Or for what values are important in their daily lives. But when you are constantly around people who are outperforming you, whether that's going to happen or not, right? But if you do find yourself in that situation, you tend to lose a lot of confidence. And that makes you go way less towards those opportunities that you might have had, or that maybe you should have gone for, right? There's also a lot more competition for those opportunities. And so what can happen is that a wonderful, intelligent, hardworking student can end up dropping out of college because they went to a university where they constantly feel like they're running to catch up, instead of going to a university where they feel like, wow, I am doing really well. I'm actually going to take a heavier course load because I want to challenge myself. And they're choosing that challenge, maybe by increasing their course load, maybe by doing an internship, maybe by joining the honors college, right? There are always ways to up your load once you are at a university. But it's really hard to decrease your load if you're at a university that is very go, 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 and doesn't have quite the balance that you might be looking for. And it can have really negative effects on how you view yourself and on how you continue to progress and grow. So oftentimes it leads to a little more fixed mindset than growth mindset when you find yourself in a situation like that. So I think it's just really important to just really think about, what is the culture like there? So I love asking current students. I don't like asking them, so how hard is it? Because it's very subjective, right? Really subjective. But I love asking, okay, so like how many hours a week do you spend in class? And that's usually going to be, around 15 plus minus a few. And then I love asking them, so, if you have about 15 hours of class a week, so how many hours outside of class do you usually spend studying, doing homework, preparing for tests? And some schools, you might hear students say 15, 20, at others, they might say 30 or 40. And so think about that. If you're okay with that, and if that sounds reasonable, like what you were expecting, that's great. Go for your reach, totally fine. but just be really cognizant of what kind of academic environment you're going to be immersing yourself in. Just because you think that it's a higher, quote unquote, higher level, or there are more, again, in quotation marks, connections, that doesn't mean that that's the school where you are going to rise to a higher academic level or where you are going to make those connections. So really think about, where can you stand out? It's oftentimes better to be a bigger fish in a smaller pond, gain more of those opportunities, gain more of those experiences, gain more of that confidence in your own academic prowess, and then rising up to those levels. So Malcolm Gladwell did a lot of research on this idea of relative deprivation theory, like I said. And what he found was that students who attended universities where they had scored in the lower 25% academically, and they went to these really, selective universities where they themselves were in the lower 25%, they ended up dropping out or publishing very little once they had graduated. That's how he was measuring success, versus the students who had been in the top 25% of the applicant pool and had gone to those universities. So more of the target universities or likely universities. Those students actually tended to finish college more frequently, so lower dropout rates, and they tended to have a higher rate of publications post-college. So that was really interesting, because you might think, oh, but if I go to Berkeley, I'm going to, be around all this research, and I'm going to be publishing, and I'm going to go to grad school, I'm going to do all these things. Versus if I go to Santa Barbara, I can do the same stuff, but I won't have the name Berkeley on it, right? This might be what's floating around in your head in the beginning. But then think about, like, where are you going to be able to take the opportunities in the way that you're seeking them? So I'm not saying never go to your reach school. I'm just saying, be really, really cognizant of what you're getting yourself into, and then, decide to do it and embrace it. That's great. But really ask yourself on a daily basis, how much time and balance do you want? How much free time do you want? Do you want to be studying every day till midnight for the next 4 years? Or do you want to have time outside of your studies to pursue an internship, to do your own research, to work, to pursue something for fun, have a social life, right? I mean, there are a lot of different things that can lead to success. And I think balance is really important for mental health, and having more consistent mental health can lead to a lot of success in your career and your academics as well. So yeah, I'll also provide a little anecdote about myself. I know I've been talking for a long time, but I ended up going to Chapman University, and it was definitely more of a target or likely school for me when I applied. I chose it simply because I got almost a full ride. And for me, the finances were really the most driving factor in being able to finish my 4-year degree. I simply couldn't have finished it if I hadn't gotten so much money. So that was amazing for me. And I got so many opportunities at Chapman. And I think it's because I got an incredible confidence boost. Really being able to take advantage of these professor mentorships, seeing, wow, I could do my own research if I just fill out this form, and just kind of going ahead and doing it, and not feeling intimidated about even trying to do that. So I think for me personally, again, this does not apply to everyone, but for me personally, it was such a great choice because I was able to experiment without having this pressure or this intimidation of looking around me and seeing other people, doing all these things that maybe I couldn't even imagine being able to do, right? And so I think I grew much more into my academic prowess and into my own confidence, which really led me to then, conduct original research, get published in undergraduate as an undergraduate, do an internship at Cedars-Sinai Hospital in the psychiatric facility, and do all these things and create my own documentary films and go traveling, get credits for it, right?
Sure.
And I was only there for 2 years. I transferred in, and I had so many opportunities. And I don't think it would have been quite the same. And especially, I don't think I would have had the same comfort level of pursuing these opportunities if I had been at a university like MIT, where I'm looking around me thinking, oh my God, or if I'm buried in work and can't even imagine taking on more outside of it, right?
Yeah, very true. I appreciate, I mean, there's a reason why our podcast is Mindful Admissions. I've spoken to a fair few educational professionals who would say pretty much the opposite of what you've said to this by saying, you got into Berkeley. You should go to Berkeley, leap on that acceptance. So I really do appreciate that angle. Although you brought up something that I feel is equally important, which is financial aid for students. So how for many students, a financial aid offer comes within a couple of weeks of receiving an acceptance. So how should someone compare financial aid packages from different schools?
That's a great question. We actually just had a few blog posts going out about that. So head over to strivetolearn.com, click on our blog, and then on college admissions, and you'll find some good stuff on there written by our counselor, Amanda and William. But what I can say in general is gather all your financial aid offers, put them side by side, and really take a look at those letters and make sure you understand what they are telling you. So one of the things is figure out which part of that is free money, as in what you not need to pay back. So anything that has the word scholarship or grant is free money. But as soon as the word loan turns up, that is not free money. You are going to have to pay that back. So just keep that in mind. I also recommend you make a spreadsheet where you do a column per university. Again, it's the spreadsheet. I know.
I love the spreadsheet.
And then over on the left, putting the total cost of attendance for that university in the top row. Total cost of attendance means tuition and room and board. So the full price that you're paying per year to go there and to live there and to eat there and to have books. Then underneath that, I would put in any scholarships or grants and make sure it subtracts from that top row, so that on the row below that, you have the total of what do you actually need to pay per year for that college. Underneath that, I would add another row and multiply that by 4, because that way you will then have the total cost of attendance for your entire degree with scholarships. And oftentimes that helps you realize, wow, over here I'd be spending $200,000 total, but on this one I'd be spending $300,000 total. That is a difference of $100,000. That's a lot, right? And so seeing it over 4 years can be really helpful. What I also recommend you do is take a look at your EFC score again. This is something that you would have been emailed by the FAFSA when you first filled it out. It should be on your student aid report, your SAR. So take a look at that number. It's usually a 6-digit number. If you're lucky, it starts with a 0. If you're unlucky, it starts with a number, which means that you can afford to pay in the 6-digit range for your annual cost of attendance. So then you will not be able to qualify for need. But if it starts with a 0, take a look at what that number is. So let's say, for example, that number is 30,000. So it would be 030,000. It doesn't have a dollar sign, so it's kind of hard to connect that, but just know that that would then be 30,000. And let's say you got into a university that costs 70,000 and they gave you a $10,000 scholarship, bringing it down to 60,000. Now you could you could reach out to this university and say, hey, thank you so much for letting me in. Thank you so much for the 10 grand. I really appreciate it. This is amazing. However, my family has an EFC score of 30,000, which leaves a gap of another 30,000, right? Costs 60 now to attend. EFC score is 30. That gap, that would be your need. Okay. So really making that case to the university. And we do have a great blog post on how to appeal your financial aid award letter. And we do have another podcast episode on this as well. So keep an eye out. And really have that conversation, and have that conversation more than once, and really try to discuss with the university, tell them this is what I want to be for these reasons. Is there anything else we can do? Is there anything else I can apply for? Keep pushing. talk to people. If you have a different school that is similar in their selectivity or higher in their selectivity, so has a lower acceptance rate, then and you got a award letter there, you may be able to use that to leverage a little bit and just say, my parents are pushing me towards this other university where I got, 40,000 from you guys, only gave me 10, but you guys are my first top choice. Is there anything you can do so that when I have this conversation with my parents, I can really come towards them a little bit, because it's just really difficult for my family to ignore that I got 30,000 more at this other university. So starting the conversation is really important. That's what I did at Chapman. I mean, I was awarded pretty much half of what I got in the end. And I went there and I said, I love this place, but I can't come if there isn't anything else. And they found me something else I was able to apply for. So that, they didn't just hand it over. I did have to fill out an application, write an essay, things like that. But they did find another opportunity that they had kind of missed before that. I think I also just got really lucky. I was also an extremely strong applicant at that point. But, it never hurts to ask. They're never going to take anything away that they already gave you. So what do you have to lose, right? Go talk to them. They're real people. These universities are staffed by real humans that understand you and your family and what you're going through, and they will try to make it happen. So, really try to connect with the people at the university that you're hoping to attend.
Sure, absolutely. So after this consideration of what college is the best fit for you and what financial aid package makes it possible for you to go and how many options you can kind of exhaust, there comes a time when you have to commit to a school, which for most students involves declining offers from other schools. So when should someone officially decline an offer of admission from a school?
I would do it after you've committed to another school.
Sure.
Just to make sure that you have that you have your ducks in a row, right? I mean, if you are that serious about a university that you have committed to them, then you're done, right? You can go and decline the other offers. It's, kind of a courtesy to go and decline the other offers, because you're letting that university know that you're no longer interested, which allows them to already open up a spot off the waitlist sooner than May. So you're helping another student out, right? So do you have to decline? No. I mean, you can just never talk to them again. But if you want to be kind to the university, if you want to be kind to some unknown student out there who might be hanging in limbo land on the wait list, go and tell the university what your plans are. Thank them for admitting you, and tell them, politely you're declining the offer, and wish them all the best, and then head on your way.
Awesome. Well, that exhausts my questions. Do you have any kind of final thoughts or advice for students right now who are trying to make their college decision?
Yeah, I actually have I have two more big thoughts. In this time of COVID, the wait list is being utilized, as an enrollment management tool, which it always has been, but enrollment management has been much more difficult for universities this year, simply because these times are a bit unpredictable, right? I mean, college admissions is not a science, and these universities are trying to figure out how can they best get an incoming class that's the same size as the actual spots they have available, right? So the wait list is their leverage tool. So if you're on the wait list, you probably won't know if you got off that wait list until after May 1st. So you should definitely do a lot of research into the colleges that did admit you, and you should choose one that you're actually excited about. Do not bank on the wait list. Wait lists are completely unpredictable. Some years, 0 students get taken off a wait list. Other years, 300 students get taken off a wait list. Okay. Even if you look at last year's statistics from that university and the prior years, you'll see it varies widely. And why is that? It's because every year is different, and the people coming off the waitlist are there to fill the unfilled spots that they still have open for freshman year. So if more students accept the offer of admission than the university thought would accept them, then there won't be any unfilled spots, right? But if way less students take that offer, then suddenly they have more unfilled spots, and that's what they will utilize the waitlist for. So just know that, not getting off the waitlist is in no way a reflection of you or your worth. It means that university really wanted you, and they just had such, such a great applicant pool of students who were awesome, and you were one of them, and that's why you're there. But there's simply a limit to how many seats they can offer. So definitely try not to take it personally. It's really not about you. It's really about the seats that they have available that year and the enrollment management that they have to do on their end to create the freshman class. And just know it's so unpredictable. So definitely, like, I personally, I like to be positively surprised. So I like to think, you know what, I'm going to take a wait list as a no. And then if I get off of it, wow, that's a positive surprise. I can deal with it when that happens, right? If that happens. So that's one thing that I would say. And another thing I would say is, let's say, because some of the universities have been extremely selective, especially the larger public universities have gotten more selective this application phase than any prior year. If you did not get into any of the universities that you applied to, what are your options, right? That's another big question. So of course, one of the options is to go to community college. It depends on what you want to do after community college. Community college is a wonderful option to have a second shot at your first choice. So for example, if you are a California student and you really want to go to UCLA and you didn't get into UCLA, which, by the way, most people don't, because they have an extremely low acceptance rate, and because they have so many applicants, right? I mean, the statistics are just crazy. The UC system, this application season, had 250,000 applicants. That's 250,000 students to the UC system. Last year, it was 200,000. They increased by 50,000. Did the UC suddenly have 50,000 more seats in their freshman class? No, right? So this, of course, negatively impacts their admission rate, which negatively impacts you, because then you didn't get in somewhere where you feel like you would have gotten in 3 years ago, right? So it's just hard for everyone involved, including the people making the decisions on whom to offer an acceptance to. So let's say, back to this scenario, you really want to go to UCLA, but you didn't get in. If you know that's what you really want, and you've spent a lot of time thinking about it, but you've spent a lot of time exploring that option, you're 100% certain that's your end goal, then you should definitely take a look at what are the different California community colleges that speak to you. There are a lot of different ones, right? You don't have to go to the one right next door to your house. You can go to a different one. You can go explore. You can room with someone else who's going there, and you can do one of the wonderful programs that they have, such as the TAG program. So there are really, really wonderful opportunities at community college. Now, another thing, if you know where you want to go. So let's say you applied to all these universities in Boston, and it was filled with universities like MIT, Boston College, lovely, lovely, very, very selective universities such as those. And you didn't get into any. Well, Boston has so many universities. I think over 60 universities just in the center part of Boston. Take a look at the ones that are a little less selective. Some of them may still have open applications. It's April 1st. You may think, oh my God, application season is over. Not necessarily. So a lot of universities have rolling application deadlines, which means they actually accept students even until June, sometimes even July, if they still have space. Other universities say they have their deadline, and maybe their deadline was March 1st, March 15th. But after that, they'll consider applicants on a rolling basis. So it never hurts to just reach out to a university, even if their application deadline has passed, and ask them, hey, I didn't know about you guys, and now I'm really looking at my options and don't like any of them. Would it still be possible to apply for fall? Just go and ask. I've had so many students who, well, not so many, but I've had a significant number of students who either didn't apply to college when, back in fall when everyone else was doing it, or I've had very few, but I think about 2 in the last 5 years, who didn't get into the colleges that they really wanted to go to. And so in April, they were in tears and they were just like, what am I going to do with my life? I don't know what to do. I'm not, I want to go to the East Coast and I want to go to a 4-year. What am I going to do?
Mhm.
And so I just said, why don't you just apply to some colleges? And they were dumbfounded. They're like, wait, I can still do that. And they did. And they ended up going to college that fall to a 4-year in New York, in Boston. And we're super happy with their
Mhm.
choice and got high scholarships. So,
Yeah.
it's never too late. The door is not shut. You have a lot of options. And then, your other option is take a gap year. Go learn something, go travel. I know it's COVID, but it's still possible. I mean, it's not COVID 2020. It is COVID 2021. Things are more open. You could even stay local for a gap year and volunteer somewhere or do an internship somewhere. Really do something that'll allow you to grow, that'll allow you to find a passion, and mature. And honestly, airing out your brain for a half
Yeah.
year or a full year between high school and college can be so wonderful.
Mhm.
It's something that I did myself. I worked and then did an internship and traveled. So I took a year off. And when I started college, 1 year after I had graduated high school, I was so excited for my classes. My brain was just such a sponge. I was just so ready to learn something new. And if I had even tried to think of going to class right after I graduated, I mean, that was just stressed me out because I was kind of saturated at that point.
Yeah.
So I really loved, going to Argentina, perfecting my Spanish, interning at a theater, and just really, deepening my love for theater arts, which was my major when I then subsequently entered college. And it just gave me such a wonderful experience. And I feel like my 4-year experience at university, I just enjoyed it to the fullest because I had had some time to relax in between and to grow in an experiential way, in a way that really heightened my cultural sensitivity, in a way that allowed me to really figure out, how do I want to live on my own in a new big
Yeah.
city, right? And so it's something that I also highly recommend. So not getting into where you thought you wanted to go may not be the catastrophe that it sounds like. It may just be a blessing in disguise and give you all these new opportunities that will lead you to where you actually needed to be going. So, yeah.
Awesome. On that lovely note, um, I want to remind everyone that a lot of the resources and information that we've shared today are available in our on our website and in blog post form, and we're always here for you to contact and get in conversation with about these topics. So thank you so much, Josephine, for your time, and I'll see you soon.
All right. Thank you, Lily. A pleasure as always. Happy decision making to everyone out there.
Woo!